Биография.
I knew she had no experience, but she had a very special look.
I said, where did you learn how to act? She said, well, I didn't really. I said, what do you mean? She said, I never took an acting class. I said, don't. It's just a natural thing.
Hello. I was given a lot of confidence as a child. My parents probably gave me too much confidence.
She has had a very interesting relationship with the tabloids.
She didn't want to be in the tabloids and everybody following her love life.
Cameron has an undeniable sweetness about her.
Well, people fell in love with her, but they fell in love with what was inherent.
She has that sense of humor and kind of a sort of a courage and daring that comes across in her work. That's the real Cameron Diaz.
In January of 2011, Cameron Diaz appeared in The Green Hornet, starring Seth Rogen. The film was an instant smash and became the highest-grossing movie in America during its first week in theaters. It was the latest hit for Diaz, whose remarkable career began 17 years earlier with her unforgettable debut in The Mask.
In film history, if you look at the shots that first introduced Marilyn Monroe and made her famous, I mean, there's several good examples. It was always a very special moment. So I had the opportunity with someone that I really felt strongly was going to be a big star.
I do what they tell me, and then
She's got to be this character that when Jim Carrey sees her, his eyes pop out of his head and his tongue reaches the ground. I mean, this is like, you know, the greatest looking chick ever.
While her supermodel good looks are undeniable, her appeal has always been more than just skin deep. Since she first made the transition from model to actress, Diaz has proven she can do it all, from action films to period dramas to over-the-top comedies. Her natural on-screen abilities and personal charisma have made her a megastar and one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood history. Not too bad for someone who has never taken an acting lesson in her entire life. Cameron Diaz was born on August 30th, 1972 in San Diego, California. She was the second daughter of Emilio and Billy Diaz. Cameron's exotic good looks were the result of her eclectic mix of Cuban, English, German, and Native American ancestry. When Cameron was still very young, the Diaz family traveled up the coast and settled in Long Beach. Instead of leaving Cameron and her sister Chimena at home, the parents would take the girls to parties, where they would mingle freely with the adults.
I was given a lot of confidence as a child. My parents probably gave me too much confidence, but my sister and I both, my sister was definitely the good girl, and I was a troublemaker.
Cameron was a tomboy who channeled her energy into sports. She and her friends would take a 2-hour bus ride to the beach to body surf.
She liked to play baseball. She liked to, go hiking. There's a thing called jungle ball that the kids played. She got into fights. Her nose got broken when she was younger.
As a teenager at Long Beach Polytechnic High School, Cameron danced at football games with the school's cheerleading group known as the Polyettes. Off the field, Cameron wore concert tees with flannel shirts over top, a look inspired by the popular rock groups of the day.
She was also skinny. They called her Skeletor, the kids, So I think it took a while before she started filling out.
Though she was described as a gangly teenager, Cameron often attracted the attention of unscrupulous men who promised to launch a modeling career for her. But one man actually made good on his offer. After meeting at a Hollywood party, photographer Jeff Dunas arranged for the then 16-year-old to meet with Elite Modeling Agency.
He came up to her and he gave his card and said, give this to your parents and see if they'd call me so I could talk to them about, photographing you for an agency. So that was a different approach, a different line. So she did. She brought it to her parents, and her father called them and met with them, and they discussed the possibilities. So anyway, she went down to an Elite and they signed her up.
Within a week, Cameron had her first modeling job for Teen magazine. It paid $125 and was the first of many assignments.
Modeling is still photograph. You portray an image only for a very brief amount of time, and then you move on to the next.
There were parts of modeling that she really didn't like, but there was also parts that she really didn't mind. You know, again, carefree. She was having fun.
Cameron's teenage years as a self-described rock and roll loving geek would soon be over as she pursued a career as an international model. Cameron Diaz's modeling career started after a chance meeting with a photographer in 1990. After graduating from high school, she traveled to Japan for more assignments.
When she was in Japan, she got paid $10,000 basically. That was the expenses, and this is for living and what have you. In the 3 months that she was there, they treat you very well in Japan. You have a driver, you can get into clubs for free, you can get drinks for free, because you're just there to be looked at.
Cameron's modeling career began to flourish. She was jetting all over the world, from Australia to Mexico, Morocco to France. She also met her first serious boyfriend, music video director Carlos de la Torre. Diaz kept modeling to pay the bills, but she was also interested in acting.
Did she want to be an actress? I think just as much as she wanted to be a model, or she wanted to play ball when she was young, or, you know, go skateboarding, or learn to surf, or do any of the things she does. Life is a lark for Cameron Diaz.
In 1993, Diaz auditioned for the role of femme fatale Tina Carlisle in The Mask. But initially, the studio was interested in another model for the role, former Playboy playmate Anna Nicole Smith.
I had a little struggle with the studio because they're never comfortable when I have to say, look, I've got a girl who hasn't even done a soap commercial, but I want her to be the lead in the picture. So I had a real sell job to do with the studio.
The Mask was developed as a starring vehicle for Jim Carrey, who was an unproven box office commodity when filming started.
They needed someone to support Jim Carrey, someone, a name really. This is what the producers were looking at and all, and the studio. Here's Cameron that nobody really knows, who's getting sick over this whole thing.
By the time I came back to them with Cameron, the experimental idea at that time was Jim Carrey as a leading man. Then kind of the additional baggage of selling an unknown actress was a challenge.
Diaz would play the love interest of The Mask, the alter ego of a mild-mannered bank clerk who is transformed into a green-faced, whirling dervish.
The Mask is the kind of guy that just wants to turn the world on fire, you know, and wherever he steps is, you know, there's like lightning bolts coming out of his feet. I mean, he just knows he's gonna just whack the room.
The whole point in the film was, do we hope Jim trusts this girl or doesn't trust this girl?
She's a nightclub singer, her boyfriend's a gangster, and although Tina always wanted to be a star and always believed she could be, all of a sudden she's having doubts because her boyfriend sort of makes her feel that, you know, she's only capable of what he gives her. So, and not until she meets Stanley Ipkiss, Jim's straight character out of The Mask, does she realize that she does have potential and that she is a good person.
Russell capitalized on Cameron's wild side to bring the character to life.
She's got kind of a twisted sense of humor, and also, even though she's got this kind of great all-American girl look, she has a wonderful Cuban heritage, so she has this kind of hot-blooded thing available. And if I found her acting a little too cautiously, you know, I'd come back to her and I'd remind her of the things she did in the audition that were wild, and she was there. She was there for it.
Diaz was also there for her co-star, Jim Carrey. She helped him get back in shape for a crucial scene when Carrey was down and out with the flu.
I told him that night, if you're sick, we do have insurance, we can shut down. It was a very show-busy moment. He said, no, you know, I can do it. But he had Cameron Diaz to nurse him in the trailer. I mean, Cameron was literally had like a bucket, and he was throwing up. He was very sick, but he pulled it together. So that is one of the beautiful things about film. You have a little family you create. And over the course of that film, Jim and Cameron's chemistry just got better as they became real friends.
Despite her extra effort behind the scenes and her role as the female lead, Diaz's salary was modest.
I had such a hard time convincing the studio at the time to use Cameron Diaz. I mean, she was making just above scale. She was making, I believe, more as a model at the time, but of course she wanted the opportunity to do the film.
Hopefully, eventually my earnings in the film will be up there with my earnings in modeling.
Diaz wasn't the only actor on set with a relatively lean paycheck. Jim Carrey's salary for The Mask was reported to be only $540,000. But despite the low compensation, the movie paid off for both actors' careers. Diaz was thrilled when the movie premiered to an enthusiastic crowd at the Cannes Film Festival. When The Mask opened in theaters 2 months later, it established Carrey as a bankable movie star and provided Diaz with a very impressive calling card.
While she's doing it, there was a point almost where she just said, no, you know, is anybody going to really see this movie? And then she asked the director at one point, well, my parents ever get to see this, you know? And they said, yes. They said, yeah. They said, well, where? He said, in like movie theaters? And it didn't dawn on her that this thing is going to be in movie theaters. So I don't know what she was thinking, you know? It was like very naive, you know? And she laughs about it now, but that's really where she was coming from.
The Mask was a huge hit in the summer of 1994, earning more than $120 million at the box office. Diaz's performance earned rave reviews. The show business trade paper Variety declared her a real find, while Roger Ebert called her a genuine sex bomb with a gorgeous face, a wonderful smile, and a gift for comic timing. With just one movie to her credit, Cameron Diaz had arrived.
I knew immediately we had a huge hit. I was thrilled, and so was Cameron. But she came to me after that screening, having seen the picture for the first time, and punched me in the arm, like that sister punch that hurts, you know? It's like, and she said to me, you didn't tell me how much I was responsible for. I think she finally realized she was in fact the lead of this picture.
Cameron Diaz had proved that she could grab moviegoers' attention with her head-turning film debut in The Mask. Now she had to prove that she wasn't a one-hit wonder. In 1994, Cameron Diaz had a smash hit with her movie debut in The Mask. Now came the difficult task of finding a suitable follow-up.
She had everyone's attention in Hollywood. I know Scorsese interviewed her for Casino. She had a lot of things going on immediately.
Diaz had signed on to star as Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat, an action movie based on the popular video game. But during her martial arts training, she broke her wrist and had to drop out of the project. Diaz continued to make the rounds of Hollywood auditions, but her stunning good looks and modeling background proved to be a stumbling block with casting directors.
You know, I go into a reading and they say, oh, she's too pretty for the part. And I guess I have to learn to play down my looks. It bothers me when I know that I can play the part.
Diaz decided to go the independent route. She won roles in low-budget movies, including The Last Supper with Ron Eldard and Annabeth Gish, and Feeling Minnesota with Keanu Reeves. She had broken up with music video director Carlos Della Torre after a 5-year relationship and was now seeing her other co-star from Feeling Minnesota, Vincent D'Onofrio. During the filming of Feeling Minnesota, Diaz found herself staying at the same hotel as actor Matt Dillon, who was in town shooting the comedy Beautiful Girls.
They just seemed to be friendly at the time. I think it was another year before Dillon called her up and asked her out, but they hit it off, and they got very involved very fast, and she was very open about it.
In 1996, Diaz played another femme fatale, this time coming between two brothers, in She's the One.
It was fun for me to play her because it's nothing like who I am, and so it was nice to just sort of like get in the skin of her for a little while.
The movie co-starred Ed Burns, who also wrote and directed the romantic comedy. After seeing his first movie, The Brothers McMullen, Diaz was keen to work with the up-and-coming filmmaker and signed on to the project immediately.
There was just a connection with the material between the two of us, and it just turned out to be something that worked out.
Diaz's choice of movie roles paid off. That year, she was voted Female Star of Tomorrow by theater owners at the annual Show West convention, which highlights fresh young talent.
The Show West Female Star of Tomorrow award, I think, created a lot of buzz for her, because she goes to Vegas. She gets, you know, they get the award and whatever, and you know, she plays craps, she enjoys, you know, she gambles, she has fun, so she's making an appearance. It's publicity is what it is.
When Diaz decided to return to a big-budget Hollywood movie, she did it with a bang. In My Best Friend's Wedding, she starred opposite the reigning queen of romantic comedy, Julia Roberts. The prospect of working with Roberts was both exciting and daunting.
She's been doing this long enough. She's a seasoned actor. You admire her, so there was definitely a little bit of knee shaking happening.
What she learned from Julia Roberts was that Julia Roberts is a very professional actress, and when she came on the set and they started working together, she turned into the character right away, and she was focused, and she was, you know, she knew her lines, and she knew what she was doing.
Diaz needn't have worried. She held her own opposite Roberts and won even more fans. In its review of the movie, Rolling Stone magazine called Diaz irresistible.
Cameron's divine, really nice, sweet, and really clever actress.
Cameron has an undeniable sweetness about her. I mean, she really has it's almost another worldly kind of thing about her, and you can't take your eyes off her face, and she's just incredibly talented and sweet.
Diaz played a perky bride-to-be whose wedding is sabotaged by a jealous Julia Roberts. Though Roberts received top billing, she insisted the movie was an ensemble effort.
A good deal of it was improv, but in order to do that kind of improvisation, you really have to have the good fortune of a group of people who really understand their characters and one another, because it's difficult. Once you go off the book, it's, you know, anybody's game, and it can really fail miserably. So in order to do that kind of thing effectively, you really have to have a pretty tight ship.
My best friend's wedding showed that she could hold her own with Julia Roberts, that she could be the object of desire, and not only that, but that have the boyfriend choose her over Julia Roberts.
During filming in Chicago, art imitated life as Diaz attended her own best friend's wedding.
She got married literally smack dab in the middle of it all. I was in the wedding, so I had to be there. So the scheduling was kind of, you know, trying to get through all of this.
Following the success of My Best Friend's Wedding, Cameron Diaz signed on for another romantic comedy, A Life Less Ordinary. The movie was produced by the creators of Trainspotting and co-starred Ewan McGregor.
There was a lot of anticipation. Ewan McGregor, she wanted to do the movie. She thought it was a good script. Everything looked terrific, and the movie just died. You know, it didn't do well at all, and it was critically killed by just about everybody.
Cameron had little time to worry about the failure of A Life Less Ordinary. Her next movie was the smash gross-out comedy, There's Something About Mary.
There's just something unbelievably likable about her. You know, it's I guess, presence. She's a kind-hearted woman. She's very nice, very real. She's kind of perfect. I think people gather that when they see her on the screen. She's the real deal.
The raunchy comedy would push the boundaries of good taste, but firmly established Diaz as an A-list actress. In 1997, My Best Friend's Wedding was Cameron Diaz's first big commercial hit since The Mask. She was then asked to audition for the title role in a comedy called There's Something About Mary. The script was written by Peter and Bobby Farrelly, the creators of the Jim Carrey smash hit Dumb and Dumber.
We heard great things about her from Jim Carrey, and it took a few meetings for us to talk her into it. It's because during the first meeting I kind of messed up. I said, Cameron, if you do this movie, you're going to be the biggest comedic female star out there. And she was like, oof, I don't want to be that.
Diaz couldn't resist the script, branded with the Farrellys' trademark bizarre humor and unconventional characters.
When I read scripts like Mary, it's shocking to me. It surprises me. I never know what's going to happen on the next page. I laugh. I'm shocked. It's all those things. So that's what draws me in, that grabs my attention.
The role of Mary was very, very similar, it turned out, to Cameron's personality. We didn't know this up front. You know, we didn't know Cameron Diaz. We cast her and then got to know her as we're making the movie. But she's a guy's girl. Very easygoing, funny, really smart, really natural, really cool. You know, all the things that we like. You know, likes to have a beer with the guys.
Diaz landed the starring role of Mary alongside her latest boyfriend, Matt Dillon.
When we cast Cameron Diaz, I think she was the first person we cast, and then we started looking at the other people, and when we had wanted a Matt Dillon long before, we didn't know he was going out with Cameron Diaz. That was news to us. When we went to, do you know that Cameron Diaz? No, we didn't know that. That's the guy's honest truth. When we brought them in to work together, we were a little concerned that, what if things don't work out for them, you know?
W. Earl Brown played Diaz's mentally challenged brother, Warren.
I had one rehearsal with her. I knew immediately when we were in the room, just her personality and herself that she brought to it was what was going to illuminate the character. When we did Mary, everybody has their assistant and everybody. She had nobody that worked for her. I remember they were Christmas shopping, and like other people were sending their assistants out to get their Christmas gifts, and she was doing it. I remember asking her on Charlie's Angels, I was laughing, I said, well, do you have an assistant now? I don't remember if she did or not. I didn't see anyone. There wasn't anybody there in a trailer. But I'm sure her life has changed considerably since those times of, going to the mall to do her own Christmas shopping.
The movie was full of raunchy humor, including a famous hair gel scene that went down in pop culture history.
That was the one thing she was afraid of. She said specifically, I'll do everything in this movie, but I'm very afraid of that. And luckily, the first time she saw it, it went through the roof. We did a test screening that was tremendous, and she walked out and said, let's do it.
I think the really brave thing that she did for doing that, because her career was kind of at the point of breaking out, there was all the buzz. And to choose to play that part, had the movie not worked, had it not been funny, had it just been offensive to people and not funny, it was the end of her career. You're never going to get over the scene, that scene with the hair and the hair gel.
There's something about Mary scored big with audiences in 1998, spending 11 straight weeks in the box office top 5.
I wasn't at all surprised by her success after that. I mean, she nailed Mary. I mean, nailed it. And she was doing it in 2-3 takes. We were flying along. And it was so effortless, natural. No, I thought for sure she'd be a major star.
Diaz was a surprise choice for Best Actress by the New York Film Critics Circle for her role. She was also nominated for her first Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Comedy.
There are certain actresses out there who have an outer beauty, and you can never really get inside of. But people fell in love with her, but they fell in love with what was in here. As beautiful as she was and is, it was really what was inside her that people loved.
Diaz signed on for another politically incorrect movie, Very Bad Things, where she played a very demanding bride-to-be. Diaz admitted that in real life she could relate to some of the obsessive-compulsive behaviors of the bride she played.
Well, I'm a Virgo, so that's just my illness from the beginning. It doesn't play out in the same way. I have compulsions of like folding things, or a plant has to be over there, and if I put something down, I put it there, and that's its spot, and that's where it lives.
By the end of the decade, directors were lining up to work with Cameron Diaz. Oliver Stone was one of them. The Oscar winner spotted her at a Golden Globes party in 1998 and offered her a part in his football drama, Any Given Sunday. Diaz accepted and was right in her element, playing an ambitious NFL franchise owner opposite Al Pacino. As a kid growing up in Long Beach, she watched football every weekend with her father, Emilio.
It just never really worked for me, that particular movie. No fault of hers. I think she did fine, and I know Al Pacino liked her performance and liked working with her. I have never read or heard of anybody who has not liked working with Cameron Diaz. There's something about her, really, just like Mary.
Another strong performance followed in Being John Malkovich, where she played the unhappy wife of a puppeteer who spends time inside the mind of the famous actor.
The choice to do Being John Malkovich was very Cameron, and that is, she wanted to prove, I'm not just a pretty face, I can do it all. And, I obviously went far the other way to show that.
She played this part as a frumpy, unattractive young lady, in the movie, and so she played it a complete 180 from There's Something About Mary, where everyone is looking at Mary because there's something about her. There's nothing about her in Being John Malkovich that makes you feel, that your eyes are going to pop out of your head and your tongue is going to hit the floor as you did in The Mask.
The role showed audiences a very different side of Diaz. Her character wore no makeup, and her trademark blonde shoulder-length hair was replaced with a mess of brown frizz. W. Earl Brown was again her co-star and was blown away by her new look.
I went in the makeup trailer and they were doing something with her lips so she couldn't talk. And I sit down right next to her. I honest to God didn't, because I get the look, the eyes like, hey, she didn't say anything, but this, how you doing? And I did the, hey, like when you meet, you don't really know who this, maybe I should know them, hey, good to see you. Well, then when she could speak, then I knew it was her. So, but I sat there for probably a minute, right next to her, elbow to elbow, and not even realize it.
It showed a range, and I think that's very significant because the movie was as critically acclaimed as anything she has ever done.
Critics were impressed by the transformation, and for the second year in a row, Diaz was nominated for a Golden Globe.
She had said something like, well, there are only 14 scripts and 14 stories in this town, and being John Malkovich is the 15th. You know, it's an original, but she did very well with it.
Diaz's date for that year's Golden Globes was actor and musician Jared Leto. They began dating in 1999 after Cameron split from Matt Dillon. With a new boyfriend and a handful of successful films and strong reviews, Cameron began the new millennium in high spirits. Cameron Diaz rang in the year 2000 with a lot to look forward to. She was up for a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress in Being John Malkovich, and had landed a coveted role in Charlie's Angels, co-starring Lucy Liu and Drew Barrymore.
She showed that she could play romantic comedy. She showed that she can be a sex bombshell, and she showed that she can do some serious drama. And you know, and then she gets, you know, to hang out with Drew Barrymore and Lucy Liu, and they do Charlie's Angels.
The movie version of the 70s TV series was another box office smash and earned the trio an MTV Movie Award for Best On-Screen Team. Charlie's Angels also attracted a legion of young female fans.
People come up to me and say, my daughter looks up to you and you're her hero. That's really the first time that I've had that sort of response where I heard that.
The film also scored big with male audiences who were intrigued by an action movie in which women were the heroes.
Obviously, for men, they like to look at her. She's sexy, she's attractive, she's, you know, she's got a great smile, she's playful. For women, though, I think it's a little bit different. I think that her sense of humor, her take, her attitude about things, you know, the sort of glint in her eye, the gleefulness. Hey, I'm here. Look at this, Charlie's Angel. Isn't this great? You know, look at this. You know, look at these crazy parts that I'm being put into, and you know, and I can have fun with it.
Cameron's next feature also scored big with young moviegoers. In 2001, she lent her voice to Princess Fiona in the Oscar-winning animated feature Shrek. By day, her character was a beautiful princess, but by night, a curse transformed her into an ogre.
I love the message that it sends out, that you can't judge people for the way that they look. Some days we feel like the princess, and some days, most of the time, we feel like an ogre, you know, and on occasion we feel like a princess. And the Princess Fiona learns that, you know, as she goes, that she can accept herself for who she is.
The movie was based on the offbeat children's book by William Steiger. It poked fun at classic fairy tales like Snow White and Cinderella. Chris Farley had recorded some dialogue for the title character, but after his death in 1997, he was replaced by Mike Myers. The cast also featured Eddie Murphy as Donkey and John Lithgow as the evil Lord Farquaad.
I mean, the writers did a great job, and the animators did a great job, and because Eddie, Cameron, and John and I were never in the same room, it's almost impossible to improvise that much.
Diaz pocketed $3 million for her work. Not bad considering her voiceover sessions required no wardrobe or makeup. Her next role proved much more challenging. She played Tom Cruise's obsessive lover in the psychological drama Vanilla Sky. For her role, Diaz landed another Golden Globe nomination, her third in just 4 years. By 2002, Diaz had racked up an impressive list of box office hits after only an 8-year career as an actress. Her movies, The Mask, My Best Friend's Wedding, There's Something About Mary, and Charlie's Angels all surpassed the $100 million mark at the box office. So it was no surprise that Diaz was demanding bigger and bigger paychecks.
And you get what you can. You know, you're not asking for it, your agent's asking for it, and they're going to stretch the limits and to see what they can get.
In 2002, she was paid $15 million to star in The Sweetest Thing. Diaz and co-stars Christina Applegate and Selma Blair starred as 3 friends looking for love in San Francisco.
In this movie, we get to have a real good time with just sort of putting it out there and saying, yeah, you know, these are girls. This is what girls do when girls are with girls, and this is how they talk, and you know, this is what it is.
If I could work with her every day of my life, I would. I would pay someone just to work with her.
The movie featured a number of racy scenes, which played into Diaz's love of irreverent humor.
Having the support of my girls, Cameron and Christina, you can come in and do the raunchiest things and it doesn't even seem like a big deal until your mom sees it, and then you wonder, what was I thinking that day?
Thomas Jane played Diaz's love interest in the movie.
It's really difficult, you know. She's moody and surly and late, and you know, won't come out of her trailer, insists on retakes, you know, and I think that was a great kiss. What do you mean, let's do it again? That kiss was perfect. You want another one? What? Is anyone alone in the fact that I think that was a great take and Cameron here wants another kissing take? You know, arguments like that all the time.
While The Sweetest Thing proved to be a disappointment at the box office, it didn't diminish her star power. Diaz's asking price was still going up, and director Martin Scorsese was knocking on her door. In 2002, Cameron Diaz's smiling face was on the cover of virtually every celebrity magazine. But the blonde beauty was always looking for a challenge. She beat out the likes of Heather Graham and Christina Ricci for a role as a pickpocket in Gangs of New York. The movie featured an all-star cast including Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Liam Neeson. Diaz traveled to Italy to shoot the gangster epic under the direction of Martin Scorsese.
I just wanted to have the opportunity to be in the room with him. But, you know, I was fortunate enough to get to go to Rome for 6 months.
Then Martin Scorsese wants her for Gangs of New York, but he didn't know he wanted her until she auditioned. A lot of people auditioned for that film. And what happened is that Leonardo DiCaprio, his eyes lit up when he saw her, because he knew her. But there was something about her that he really enjoyed seeing around. And Scorsese saw the interaction. And he said he hired Cameron because of the way Leo reacted to her.
Her role as immigrant Jenny Everdeen required Diaz to speak with an Irish accent.
We didn't do like a full Irish accent. We kind of washed it out a little bit, having our characters be from here and just sort of all the different influences of different accents in the 5 points. So we kind of washed it out and had it just as a little undertone. But it was fun. I loved doing it.
Ironically, while Diaz was playing a pickpocket in the film, she thwarted 2 thieves in real life who tried to steal her belongings from a hotel room in Rome.
I don't understand people who take from other people. It's something I just don't understand.
Cameron earned her 4th Golden Globe nomination in 5 years, but once again, an Oscar nomination eluded her.
I think Cameron Diaz is still going to show us something. I think she's got plenty of growth to occur, and if she takes it seriously and if she works hard at it, maybe she'll get nominated.
Cameron had not earned an Oscar nomination, but she was poised to become one of the highest-paid actresses in film history. After a busy start to the decade, Diaz took some time off and headed to Hawaii, where she took some private surfing lessons. What was supposed to be a relaxing vacation turned serious after the actress broke her nose. It was the 4th time she had broken it.
Which is so amazing. Here's this woman with this great face, and her nose could have been a little more shapely, and yet, you know, she can get away with it. It gave her character.
A few years later, Diaz decided to go under the knife to fix her nose after the multiple breaks started to affect her breathing.
The reason she said was not out of any vanity, because she didn't want to go under the knife for that, but apparently one of her nostrils got clogged. So she was breathing out of just one side of her nose, and that's not a healthy thing to do.
When Diaz returned to work after her year-long hiatus, she made Hollywood history. In little more than a decade, she had become one of the industry's top box office draws. Her movies grossed more than $4 billion worldwide. So it was no surprise when she negotiated for top dollar to reprise her role in the sequel to Charlie's Angels. Diaz became just the 2nd actress, after Julia Roberts, to be paid $20 million for a picture.
When Cameron became the 2nd woman to make a $20 million payday on film, I wasn't really surprised. I mean, she has that value commercially.
$20 million was the top rate for any woman that we know of so far, so they asked for it. So money talks in this town.
The high-action follow-up meant Diaz had to be in top shape. Her assets were featured prominently in the poster, making her slim figure the envy of women everywhere.
it's about how you feel inside your body. And for me, I feel my best, not maybe when I look my best to everybody, but when I'm just strong and I'm eating right and I'm taking care of myself and I'm exercising, that's when I just feel my best.
Cameron's famous figure was back in the headlines for another reason. Provocative pictures taken of her in 1992 while she was modeling in Japan had come back to haunt her. Photographer John Rutter was accused of trying to extort $3.5 million from the actress in exchange for the photos, which he threatened to shop around to the highest bidder. After a criminal trial in 2003, Rutter was found guilty and sentenced to nearly 4 years in jail. The judge prohibited the photos from ever seeing the light of day.
She says, well, when you're young and naive and a bit stupid, you do these things, you know. I like to think that young women who are starting to model would think twice about doing these things, because this is exactly what could happen with it.
After Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, Diaz pocketed $10 million to head back into the studio for Shrek 2. Diaz and boyfriend Jared Leto had broken up after 4 years of dating and an engagement. She started seeing Justin Timberlake after they met at the Kids' Choice Awards. The former NSYNC member was 9 years younger. The high-profile relationship made Diaz and Timberlake a favorite target of the paparazzi. In 2004, outside LA's Chateau Marmont Hotel, 2 photographers accused the duo of grand theft and battery after the couple took one of their cameras, which was later handed over to the police. In September 2006, Diaz had another run-in with the tabloid media and filed a police report with the LAPD, accusing a photographer of assault and alleging that he drove his car directly at her.
She loves photographers. She doesn't like the paparazzi. She makes that distinction. When you're on the red carpet and photographers are there, they're working for their living. They're working hard, and she knows them, and she knows what they need, and she'll give it to them. But when you're jumping out of a bush, you know, when you're in hiding, and you're going there and you're endangering them, that's a whole other story.
While trying to keep her personal life out of the tabloids, Diaz attended the Toronto Film Festival to promote her latest movie, In Her Shoes. She and Toni Collette played feuding sisters who discovered a grandmother they never knew they had. Diaz recommended 8 Mile and LA Confidential director Curtis Hanson for the movie adaptation of Jennifer Weiner's best-selling novel.
When I read it with her in mind, and immediately thought, who better to play this character who's allowed to cruise by on the basis of what she looks like and on the basis of the way men react to her. And the fact that Cameron wanted so badly to play it gave me confidence that she very much wanted to play the dark side of that same thing.
Just days before the movie premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, Diaz took part in a celebrity benefit for the victims of Hurricane Katrina.
Our community got together and, you know, did what we do. We put our faces out there to help bring money in. And among, you know, there's other things that we all are doing separately to try to help with this. And I think that it's really important that we all keep up with, you know, what the future will ask of us, because I know that there's going to be a lot that we still need to do.
While Diaz was vocal in her support for the Hurricane Relief Fund, she was also active in supporting many environmental causes. She produced and hosted the MTV show Trippin', where every week she took celebrity friends to an endangered area of the world. But even that well-intended message was diluted by the media when a tabloid ran a story accusing her of adultery with the married producer of the show.
Shane Nickerson is the MTV producer, who's married, and at one point there was a photo taken where she's hugging Shane, but it was innocent. So when it came out and they started saying that she's having an affair and with him and blah, 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 well, it's hurting her relationship with Justin because it's not true, and it's hurting Shane Nickerson's relationship with his own wife and family.
Diaz and Nickerson denied the claims and sued the magazine for libel and slander after it published an article with the headline, "Cameron Caught Cheating."
I guess it upset them enough to say enough is enough. I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to let them scandalize us when it's not true. It gets out there. All these families get affected. We know it's an innocent hug, and for them to do this, I think they better be put in their place. And so she did. She successfully put them in their place. So she has had a very interesting relationship with the tabloids.
Diaz also made a surprise appearance at Stanford University, where she guest lectured on environmentally friendly design. With all her causes, Cameron still found time for her day job. In December 2006, she joined Jude Law for the romantic comedy The Holiday.
For me, the best holidays are just when I can get away with a group of friends, you know, or with my family and just be with the people that I love. We get our whole family together and spend a week and hang out, and those are always my favorite holidays.
Playing a career woman who swaps houses with Kate Winslet, Cameron shot most of the movie in and around London.
I don't quite know what Cameron made of England. I mean, she'd been here before, obviously. I don't think she was... I seem to remember her hightailing it for the plane to get back to the surf and the sun and her life in California.
Back in Los Angeles, Diaz was again in the media spotlight after she announced her breakup with Justin Timberlake.
What's become of her now is sort of sad to me because I know specifically that she did not want this to happen. She didn't want to be in the tabloids and everybody following her love life.
Despite her best intentions, one high-profile project placed Diaz and Timberlake in front of the press once again. In 2007, Cameron returned to the Shrek franchise to provide the voice of Princess Fiona in both Shrek the Third and the holiday special Shrek the Halls. For the series' third installment, Timberlake was also attached, lending his voice to a character. During the film's United Kingdom premiere, the one-time couple appeared at ease with all the media attention.
In this one, you've got your ex on the cast list. How difficult does that make things?
He's right there. There's no blows being thrown, is there? It's only difficult when people ask about it, because then you go, why are they asking about it?
Outside of acting, Diaz continued her work as a dedicated environmentalist, taking part in Al Gore's Live Earth concert series to raise awareness of climate change.
Hello. The smartest choice that we all can ever make is to answer the call and save ourselves.
She teamed up again with Gore to promote Current TV's 60 Seconds to Save the Earth, a contest giving viewers a chance to create a PSA about fighting climate change. Unfortunately, she also garnered some negative publicity for a politically insensitive fashion blunder. While visiting Machu Picchu in Peru, Diaz was photographed carrying a handbag decorated with the Mao Zedong phrase, "Serve the people," written in Chinese. Some locals took offense as the Maoist Shining Path insurgency of the 1980s and early 90s left nearly 70,000 Peruvians dead. Diaz quickly apologized, but much worse news was coming her way. In 2008, her 58-year-old father, Emilio Diaz, died unexpectedly from pneumonia. While it was a difficult time for Cameron personally, on screen things continued to go her way. She starred alongside Ashton Kutcher in the successful romantic comedy What Happens in Vegas, and Forbes magazine named her the highest-paid actress in Hollywood, reporting Diaz earned an astonishing $50 million in 2007. In 2009, Diaz starred in the tearjerker My Sister's Keeper, playing the mother of a child with leukemia. Later that year, she appeared in the supernatural thriller The Box. No stranger to high-profile romances, Diaz began another relationship perfect for the tabloids when she dated New York Yankee slugger Alex Rodriguez. In 2010, Diaz returned to the kingdom of Far, Far Away in Shrek Forever After, and appeared alongside Tom Cruise in the action comedy Night and Day.
She's just such a great actress, particularly in a movie like this. It was, you know, when you're dealing with this kind of comedy, you need someone who's just right there.
Her busy schedule continued in 2011, starring in The Green Hornet and working with former boyfriend Justin Timberlake in Bad Teacher. She also signed on to co-star with Oscar winner Colin Firth in the Coen brothers remake of the caper film Gambit. With no formal training to speak of, Cameron Diaz made the transition from model to superstar actress look easy. From the very moment she burst onto the scene, it was obvious she was more than just another pretty face.
Cameron Diaz can do it all. Her career will continue for many, many more years because it's not about her looks. It's not about that. It really isn't. Again, I emphasize to people, it's not. There's a million beautiful girls out there, and they couldn't do Mary.
Seems like she's figured out a way to be happy, to be carefree and loose, to do good projects.
She has that sense of humor and kind of a sort of a courage and daring that comes across in her work. That's the real Cameron Diaz.
I believe what you put out in the universe comes back, so if I put something out, I want to make sure it goes to the right place, so I always knock on wood.